Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of askTBG. This is episode 11, and we've brought it back. So this is almost like a season 2, if you will, where you guys ask questions, we answer them, and it's kind of like no limits. Nothing's off the table. So if you want to ask questions about baby products, to car stuff, maybe you have a side hustle business, like anything we can help you guys with, and we know an answer or have an opinion or input on that subject, we will answer those questions. So that's what this is all about. Ryan, you got some questions ready for us?
Yes, sir. So the first question is an email that we received from our friend Oliver, who says, I have an 11-year-old son. In 2016, I met a woman who at the time had a 9-month-old baby. The dad was not in the picture at all. I took over as dad almost immediately to the point where I helped set up the first birthday with her and her family. This past December, we had our first baby together, a baby girl. Having to deal with a baby all over again has been stressful. My son is already in school, starting middle school, and now going back to diapers and starting everything all over again. Is there any advice on how to handle the cycle all over again? Signed, Exhausted Dad, our friend Oliver.
Ooh, Oliver. Well,
congratulations.
Congratulations, and good on you for stepping up to kind of parent someone else's child. It takes a special type of person to do that. I think there's not a lot of people that would do something like that. So good for you on that. I don't know about advice on starting over. Both Alex and I really went into it and kind of went through the phases with multiple kids, and this Alex is still going through it all at the same time. I would say just kind of lean into it, embrace it for what it is, and just kind of roll with the punches. I wouldn't try to force things that aren't and things of that nature, but I would just kind of lean into it, just like you do with, manning up to someone else's kid. Like,
don't be afraid to ask for help if you have access to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need that break, or I know when we first had our twins, people would come over and say, "Hey, I want to bring over some food and then come help out." And we weren't thankfully our friends were like, "Hey, we'll clean your house and do laundry. Go lay down." And it's like, as much as they want to come over and see the baby and hold the baby and everything else, if they're good enough friends, or family, don't be afraid to say, hey, I really need 30 minutes here, or the spouse, wife needs 30 minutes, and take advantage of them. If they're coming over to help, have them to help, and that can help space stuff out for you. Hey, here's some money. Can you go to the grocery store and give me some milk? Maybe that's where that could be some good, as you guys are balancing the new. The new addition with having older ones.
The other thing
just
too,
getting some help.
Yeah, that just came into mind. Sorry to interrupt. Is taking shifts, mom and dad shifts, right? So it's like, hey, I'll get these kids from this time to this time. Can you do this? And then maybe it's switching it up because there's, changing diapers and feeding or whatever can be exhausting. So maybe mom's up feeding a baby, and you can kind of take on that morning duty with the other kids, or vice versa. But I think taking shifts is a really good idea too.
Not that you probably aren't, but
yeah.
And then just communication. It always comes out of communication. If someone's struggling, if someone's needing extra help, again, whether that's communication, asking for help from family and friends, or just with your spouse, it's much easier just to kind of get it out there so everyone's on the same page, as opposed to you both are tired, you're trying to juggle the new roles, and then you try to infer or deduct things, which might be right or wrong. Hey, I'm really tired. I'm and you think everything's fine, or vice versa. So just like in marriage, communication is key. So
sure.
Good luck.
Next one.
Let us know.
All right, this is from Instagram, and this is from C. Lopez 1209. First time dad over here. Baby is due in February. I just found out, and I'm not sure if I'm more excited to meet my baby or that I get to buy all the cool stuff from TBG. Any tips on what to expect besides the sleepless nights?
Congratulations again. You should definitely be more excited about getting stuff from us. I'm just kidding. What to expect? Expect the unexpected.
Expect to feel awkward. It sounds kind of weird, but coming out the hospital and everything else, if this is your first kid, you're trying to figure out the kid's trying to figure out just being out the womb, and it's awkward. And kind of embrace the awkwardness, but don't feel bad that you might feel helpless in a situation. I can remember my first night with the twins at the hospital. They're screaming, they're wailing, and you got these little aliens, and it's like you don't know what to do. If you've never held kids before, it's clumsy, it's awkward, and just be prepared to know that it's going to be awkward. But if you go into it with the right attitude and just try to learn and not be so uptight, which is hard for someone like me, but just kind of embracing the awkwardness, you'll be surprised at how much that'll probably help you get through a lot of things, because again, there's no manual and everyone does it a little bit differently. Maybe you've never changed diapers before, never held a baby before. If your spouse, your wife is trying to nurse, she's never done that before. Like, it's just clumsy and awkward.
Yeah, totally. It's completely normal to feel like you don't know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's just kind of piggybacking off of like feeling awkward. It's just like, it's totally okay, and you are not alone to feel like you don't know what the hell you're doing, and that everyone's trying to figure it out also. There's no like right or wrong way to do it. But yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, there's definitely the sleepless nights for sure. But yeah, I would say like something that I wasn't prepared for was, again, that sense of feeling so kind of awkward and
like helpless at times.
Yeah, helpless. Yeah, I mean, they're crying and they don't talk to you. You don't know. Are you hungry? Did you poop yourself? Is something hurt? And most of the time you think something hurt, but no, they're just hungry or they need their diaper changed. But I guess kind of going into it, know to just embrace. Sort of when you start to feel helpless, know that you're not alone, and that everyone else has kind of experienced that same thing as well. I think that might kind of help you through those kind of sleepless nights and the tiredness and just the new feeling of being a parent. So just off the cuff here, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's just be prepared for awkwardness. It's called parenting. Best of luck.
All right. This is from Wildlife Charlie. Huntress mom here. I'm from Norway. It's a small country and we don't have any hunting themed baby stuff. I want to bring my baby on some hunting adventures next year when he is ready. Any experience and or tips for bringing children out to hunt and or to the great outdoors? What other baby stuff should we bring when we are exploring?
Are we hunting with rifles, bows, and arrows?
I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I don't have a lot of experience.
And hunting is going to be translated into like hiking. So it's like just taking them outdoors. Doesn't necessarily mean she's going to have pew going on with little baby.
Yeah. Some people do, but
yeah, I don't know that I'd be shooting a lot of guns around a 1-year-old. I'm trying to think of the. So where's she at? The Netherlands. Norway.
Bundle up. But y'all are used to that.
I'm trying to think, just taking things, being prepared, and I'm trying to think through.
The cooler pouch.
Let's move on to the next question.
Okay. Does that keep things hot as well, by the way, the cooler pouch?
Warmer,
Warm
yes.
and cold?
It should.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same insulation properties.
Test that theory.
Okay, so the next one is from America Valor. I'm a proud father of 11-year-old son, as well as a 3-year-old and 7-month-old girls. Even with that experience that comes with 11 years, as a parent, I'm still not afraid to ask questions, and I want to know what is the number one piece of advice you'd give?
Well, good for you for not being afraid to ask questions. Man, a lot of my answers I think are so similar, and it's just kind of roll with the punches, lean into some of those sort of things, and know that there isn't always a single one answer for anything, and that you just kind of have to figure things out as you go. Alex and I just talked about in the podcast, it's like, trying to figure out how to navigate, having your kids around older kids and what they pick up from those older kids, whether you want them to or not. It's just the inevitable, and things are going to happen. So I think my number one piece of advice is just kind of staying in touch with your kids, communicating with them as they get older and are able to communicate, and just making sure that they feel comfortable enough, like that they trust you to tell you things. But just open communication is such a big deal with the kids, to make them feel comfortable to tell you things. I think is one of the things that I'm going through currently, and that would be a big piece of advice from me at this stage of the game. But how old were those kids? 3 and 7 months?
see, he's got an 11-year-old son, a 3-year-old,
11, 3, and 7 months. So you've got the whole spread. I mean, you've been through a lot of stuff, and probably more so than myself already at this point. So you might have advice for me, but I don't know. Just keeping an open mind and sticking to your guns and using your gut, I think, is super important. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'd piggyback on communication, just because at the end of the day, like whether that's with your spouse or with your kids, depending on the age, obviously when you're dealing with like a 7-month-old, it's more communication with your spouse, of how you're taking care of the kid. So who's doing what duty, who's got what responsibility, how is that divided up, how are you balancing that? Then when you got 11-year-old, it's there's different levels of communication. What are your boundaries? What things can you what things are you allowed to do? What things could you not do? How do you handle the situations, in school, at home, with friends? So I feel like just as it relates to, I've said this earlier, even with marriage, it's just so much. I think comes down to if you communicate with
Anybody.
with your kids, with your friends, with your spouse, that will address a lot of situations that might otherwise be overlooked.
Yeah.
And probably lend itself. You might have some awkward conversations, but I think
but
it's
if
better
the
to
trust
have
is
it
there and they
have
know
it
that
out than not.
that everyone's comfortable with talking to each other about things. And again, I feel like this is a big thing that we're going through, is like making sure that my kids are comfortable enough telling us things that they know may not be the best thing, but
Get them in trouble or whatever.
they have enough trust or comfort of. And I tell my kids all the time, like, even if you know something's not right, or or it wasn't the right thing to do, you will never get in trouble for telling me the truth. But if I have to find out you were lying about it, then there becomes a problem. Yeah. Like, if you did something completely wrong, but you came and fessed up and told me, you won't be in trouble for it. Like, trying to build that into like letting them know that they can be comfortable in telling me things, even though it may not be what they were supposed to do or whatever. But that comfort level and trust, I think, is super important.
Yeah. If I was to sum up the best advice in one word, it's probably communication.
Yeah.
You could put that across the gamut
Across the
on
board.
anything in business. If you're all on the same page because you communicate,
Right.
I think it's just
Cool. Moving on.
The next question is from our friend Don Burgundy. Got a lot of shopping ahead of me the next few months. Any recommendations for car seats and or strollers?
do you remember what? Oh,
Don, congratulations.
yeah. I was gonna say, do you remember what you used? Because obviously, I'm in the thick of it as far as like
that's
move,
on you
move
right
more
now.
the more the
I
infant stage.
I haven't played in the stroller game in a hot minute, aside from our Veer Cruiser, which, by the way, isn't just a wagon, is also classified as a stroller. So there are adapters for it. We don't sell the adapter, but Veer directly sells the adapter for the car seats to clip into the wagon, but it's also classified as a stroller. So it has all the safety mechanisms and brakes and passes all those regulations. By the way, not that I'm trying to sell you on that, but it was in my head.
Yeah,
so.
it's an option, obviously, especially if you got a little bit older one and you want to drop the car seat in.
Right.
We used Britax,
Yeah.
which was when like the Brit exit was going on, and I completely would always butcher it, but I'd always mess that up. But anyways, we did that. So the thing that we looked for was like, what's the ease of use from like a kind of a weight standpoint, since we had twins, how do you balance that? But we needed a stroller that was, when I popped it out of the car seat, we wanted to be able to pop it right into the stroller and not have to move around.
There's a lot of good systems out there, and I think
so we used the Britax. My kids liked it. One thing we were just talking about is sometimes I check like the return policy and stuff, but like you might find that your kid just hates the certain angle of a car seat. So if you put them in there and they have a lot of like reflux and other stuff, it could be just the way that the kid's sitting in the car seat that if they're having like reflux at that time. So just something to be mindful of. I didn't really realize that until I had my third kid, and he hated the Britax. Just the way it worked with him, and we had to go with another one, and the kid was much happier in that one. But I would find a system that works well with the kind of car you have, that kind of transitions between stroller and
so there's a few things to keep in mind,
drop-in.
and I'm sure that if you're having a baby, you've researched this a little bit, and I think we should do a whole thing. I really want to review baby products. You guys let us know what you think about that, but I really want to like review some of these products. But most of these companies have an entire system, so it'll have like the car seat base that the baby seat will clip into, that you can release it and then take it and put it in the stroller and take that, and they might have like another thing that you can put it into. So it's an entire system, so keep that in mind. But then it's balancing kind of like quality and comfort and safety with budget and finding a happy medium there, because different people have different budgets, and some of that stuff's expensive. I mean, you could spend $2,000 on like a stroller, car seat, system pretty easily. Yeah. But then there's some stuff out there that's like $400 and $600. You got Even Flow, you got stuff at Target. I will say you do more often than not get what you pay for. We've got some strollers here that we use to take photos and to do different things, and they suck.
Yeah, if you get an opportunity to test it like in a store, like I would literally push that stroller through the stroller. Because if you get, again, a budget, in mind, but like some of the lower level ones, the wheels are real thin and they'll start to wobble.
Awful.
And the last thing that'll just annoy the crap out of you is trying to push a stroller and it's wobbling like that, golf,
like with the grocery cart,
bad wheel.
I mean, you will just throw it off a bridge. It's so annoying.
And then, I mean, other things you really need to kind of consider, like we pushed our kids around our neighborhood, but we didn't need to constantly, I guess, take them a lot of places, like to the grocery store and everything else. We usually were there, so I'd put them in so we'd have the car seat, but the stroller wasn't a big of a deal because we weren't hiking, we weren't doing all these other things that some other people like to do. So I'd kind of keep that in mind. If you're someone who travels a lot with your kids and needs to go on planes, you might want to get a stroller that can be a lot more compact and a little more lightweight than someone who's in a city or more suburban.
There's other things to consider too, like what kind of car you have and how compact it folds up to fit into a trunk or an SUV or a minivan, or like there's different needs there, and then there's like different styles. So there's like the jogging strollers that have bigger wheels than the regular strollers that have smaller wheels, and then there's umbrella strollers for more of the quick travel stuff.
Once the kids get big enough
I recommend, like, we had a jogging stroller the first time around with like big 12-inch tires, inflatable tires, like a bicycle tire on it, and the tube, it was constantly losing air. I replaced the tube. I still had issues. Every time I got it out, I had to put air in this tire, and I was so mad.
Instead of like a fixed like hard wheel.
Yeah, I was so pissed.
See, we had one.
Annoying.
Thankfully, a friend gave it to us.
Style if you don't need it.
We never used it. And that's the other thing is like with a lot of kid products, like
they roll nice.
You think you need all these things, but in essence, like if you're not someone that literally is like runs every day, don't think because you got kids you're gonna start jogging every day. Like that's just not gonna happen. Like get a stroller because you're gonna want to walk around maybe your neighborhood if it's available because you just need to get out the house. But like I wouldn't like start buying all those products to like think that you're gonna like change their personality type to go from someone who never runs before to like runs because you have kids. I'm sure there's exceptions, and I'm sure someone will leave a comment saying that, well, I did it this way, but more often than not, like we're very active people, and I never used the jogging stroller because we just took our one British stroller that it clipped in and just pushed that around the neighborhood.
Right.
Just because you find that with kids, you just don't have as much free time as you used to.
Yeah.
Especially when they're young. But something also to consider is like once your kids get out of that bucket seat infant stage, you're considering another car seat system. And we went for another car seat system that was still rear facing, but strapped them in because you're taking a kid out of a car seat that's kind of fixed. And then we bought one that was big enough to handle when they go forward facing up to like 80 pounds. So
it's incredible
something to
how
consider
much
is
stuff you have
like,
to buy for a baby.
Especially depending on your budget, as long as it's something safe, you might need a bucket one that's safe but isn't maybe top of the line because you're going to save some of your money for 12 months down the road or whatever when you get them out of that sort of bucket infant car seat to more let's call it traditional car seat that still rear facing. But so anyways, just something to kind of think about too, because speaking from someone that has 6 car seats in 2 cars, it gets very expensive, and so you don't want to. You kind of need to be able to balance, knowing that you're going to actually have to buy something else several months down the road.
It was a long-winded answer for what stroller to recommend.
You could talk days about strollers.
There's so
man,
much information.
and car seats.
And that's why I think I should start doing reviews on them.
It's just you got personality types.
It's
and
crazy.
budgets. And
It's insane.
There's
so much out there.
And
so
I
much
think
to know.
depending right now, it's like especially if you're getting one off of like Craigslist or eBay, like a friend has one or whatever else, like check the manufacturing date because they do expire.
Right. The other thing is where you live, like different countries have different regulations. Mm-hmm. So we were just with Andrew, who's from Australia, and they were visiting Australia, and they said that they had to buy a seat in Australia. Like they traveled to Australia with one, but then later found out that it wasn't legal in Australia, that it didn't meet their certifications or whatever. So next time they went, they had to buy one in Australia that met those regulations. Crazy stuff. So
still both
there's
safe,
so
but
much to know. It's rather ridiculous at times, but all for good reason at the same time too. So, all right, next question. What do we got?
Good one. This is from Lucky Cat 86. I have a couple questions. How long did you wait before you announced your pregnancy to your family and then to everyone? Also, if you have dogs, how did they react when you first brought baby home, and did you do anything to help prepare them in advance? Thank you guys. I enjoy all the laughs, advice, and real talk.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you for that question and for the feedback. Appreciate it. The first part of that, what was the first part of the question?
Yes, how long did you wait?
Right. Till we told the family, I think we waited only a few weeks just to make sure everything was good and make sure she did the pee stick thing, and then she went to a doctor, did a blood test, everything's confirmed. Then we was just kind of waiting for the right time. Whether it's, do you want to get everybody together and kind of tell, your immediate family kind of all at once, or whatever the case is. Maybe you can't do that and you're across the country from your parents and you just want to give a quick phone call or FaceTime and kind of give them the big news. But I think just making sure everything's good and sound, and make sure that all the doctors agree that yes, you're pregnant.
And
then
if it's your first child, well, we waited to tell most people. We waited through the first trimester.
This is two parts. How long did you wait till you tell your family and then everyone else? Mm-hmm. So to that point, everyone else, you usually want to kind of try to wait till the end of your first trimester, because that's more often than not, miscarriages happen in that first trimester phase. And the last thing you want to do is tell everybody you're pregnant and then tell everybody you had a miscarriage or what happened to the baby, and then you're explaining yourself, and it sucks.
It's enough of an experience for I'm sure. Thankfully, we haven't had to experience it, but the people that we've talked to, it's that's enough of a trying experience, in and of itself, to add the burden. So, being excited about being pregnant is obviously the feelings you should have. Hopefully, you have. I would suggest waiting the 12 weeks to tell all your friends and post it on social media and do all that, especially if it's your first child. But for family, I think we waited a few weeks. I'm trying to remember on the twins.
Yeah.
Such a blur, because the second go around, we told everyone sooner, family, because my mother-in-law's in labor and delivery, and so she went to the first doctor visit for the ultrasound. So clearly, if you're going to an ultrasound, you know that you're pregnant.
Of course, the second time around, people are more excited. They want it to happen. The first time is kind of like, oh, what do we tell? How do we tell them? When do we tell them? And it's asking questions like this to figure that out, which is cool. But yeah, a couple of weeks I think is pretty normal.
Normal for immediate
family.
More like parents. I think we waited a little bit longer for siblings, just to kind of again spread out, because again it's those first few weeks that are so crucial. That a lot of things can just happen. Yeah. And good luck, but
the rest of that question though was dogs. I can speak to that. You can't really speak to that, but so
I went directly to kids.
Yeah, well, I have a very, very aggressive dog, and I was very cautious and nervous about that situation because he's very protective of us and the house, and does not like other people. Maybe Travis will put a picture of Hans here on the screen. You guys will understand this a little bit better. So I was very nervous about that. But thankfully, dogs have really good instincts, and he loved the kids immediately. Both times around, it was like, I was like, okay, this is Cameron in the car seat we're bringing into the house. And I'm like, slowly let it down, let him sniff a little. And then, then there's like that overwhelming wanting to sniff and lick and all stuff. You're like, okay, this is a new baby. I'm not trying to get this baby covered in dog slobber, but I've heard a lot of people like bring the baby clothes and let the dog smell clothes and blankets and things like that. But I think in general, dogs are pretty good about that kind of stuff.
Now, do you think that's because they almost can smell that the woman's pregnant? I've always kind of like, I thought I've heard that, and I don't have animals, but it's almost like, they can pick up a sense that like, the female's pregnant, so it's already like kind of knows something's going on. And then, I've heard a lot of people have success as far as like kind of making sure there's a blanket and kind of giving it to the dog.
Kind of baby steps into that
Baby
regard.
steps into it.
I don't know. That seems like a good test for the Mythbusters. Can a dog sense the baby in the womb?
But like with anything, like for my kids, like going around our neighborhood, there's a lot of dogs, and they love to like run up to kids and stuff. But I've always been one of those people that like, I can't stand people that have dogs that let other dogs get in like a kid's face, because you never know. Like a kid doesn't know, they go like this and they get snipped. Always been a little, I guess, maybe more overprotective than I should. But nevertheless, I've always heard that it seems like if you kind of ease into, letting the dog
What's really
around
interesting,
and sniff,
about my dog
to
being as aggressive. He's aggressive, but protective as he is. We keep him away from any other people at our house ever, always. But a lot of times when we have kids over, like this past weekend, there's a bunch of kids, and we have to be like, hey, you guys need to stay inside. We got to let the dog out, You can't go out there. But they always want to see him. And so, like, he'll walk up to the back sliding glass door, and they'll all be standing there because they want to see this dog. And he never cares about them at all. He's never, like, mean, aggressive, bark. But as soon as like another adult walks up, and it's like he knows the height different. Like he's not intimidated by these little kids, but an adult walks up to the window, and it's like it's game on. You're like, he's trying to eat your face off.
I guess it's
just crazy.
Just to wrap that up would be more of, do you know your dog? If your dog is one that as you try to walk down a bike path and it's like goes to like lunge at bikes or lunge at other dogs, like you might need to take more aggressive steps of breaking the dog into the child, as opposed to a very passive, friendly dog that the worst thing they do is try to smother you when you sit on the couch, or if it's a small yappy dog, like, like, it's just like as you begin to know your kids, like you probably know your dog, and if your dog is just a punk, then you might need to be careful of introducing the baby to it if it's just, if it's prone to being more aggressive, biting, or, what have you. So I just be self-aware of your dog for them, and then kind of adjust your plan accordingly. Sure. Speaking for someone that grew up with dogs but doesn't have them, so.
Alex is like the anti-dog.
Well, I just figured if I'm going to have all the bills, I might as well just have kids. Yeah. If I'm having to clean up after them, might as well be my own offspring. That's my 2 cents.
Goodness.
I love animals. Don't want them in my house.
Cool. Do we want to do another one, or we want to wrap it up? Where are we at with time-wise? Anybody have an idea? I think we're probably about 30 minutes into this.
Okay.
Do you have another, like, solid question?
One more, and this is from Long Throw Knuckle, who joined the askTBG chat. He's very active in that group, and he
I'm
says,
familiar with that, yeah.
what is the creepiest / most bizarre thing anyone has said to you about having kids?
What is the creepiest, most bizarre thing that anyone has said about having kids? This one makes me think.
Well, yeah, I got the hamsters on the wheel on this one.
Not really to me. What's really funny is like to my wife though. Like it's more like an offensive thing, where like you just had a baby, and then they're like, maybe it's like their first time they get to go to the store by themselves since having a baby, and then people are like, oh, when are you due? It's like, I just had the baby. Like, I know I look fat, but I don't say anything to women.
Never say anything
about being pregnant
unless they tell you.
Unless they are like obviously like 8 months and they're like about to
swallow
pop.
that basketball.
But like, I'd keep my mouth shut around women if I think they're pregnant. But I don't know. I don't really have a crazy like bizarre.
Well, so like, with I guess it was bizarre for us was more like, when we first had the twins, they're identical. You can't tell them apart. And we just, like, especially when the wife would take them in the store, like, just everyone constantly stopping and talking because they're kind of a novelty, you know what I mean? They're, so they're like staring and pointing, and it's like, okay, like, and then they start telling you like their life story, or
Yeah.
you're just awkward. Like, are they twins? Like, yes, there's two. The people are just normally just being friendly, so it's not a big deal. But I'm trying to think. Actually, one of the strangest things, but it's off the top of my head, happened to us at the park. So my wife speaks Spanish to my kids only. She taught at a university Spanish, and so we wanted to bring that into the home. So she only talks to them in Spanish. I talk to them in English. Obviously, we talk in English together. But we were at the park, and she's talking to them in Spanish about coming down off the slide and getting out of the way. And then we had to ask a gentleman who was there for the time, because we didn't have our phones on us, and we were actually enjoying time with our kids. And so we didn't know what time it was to go home. And the guy was, he told us it was funny. He was like, yeah, like, I thought it was amazing. It was just, I could listen to you guys, talking Spanish to your kids when you were telling your son, Anders, to get off the slide. And then, like, to me, it was just weird. I'm sure he's just being friendly, but like, you're using my kid's name that you heard my wife say it in Spanish, and you don't actually know Spanish, back to me. I don't know why. That just creeped me out, that it was like you were overhearing our conversation, is that we're in public.
I think it's a good thing to be aware of.
But then you're like, oh, when they're telling them your son Anders to get out of the way, and it's like, my 15-month-old, and you want to direct them by name. I don't know what, like, that just stood out to me as just kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call out someone else's kid's name that I've never met before.
Right.
Am I strange by that? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't had that
It
experience.
was kind of just creepy enough in that regard. Like, he didn't seem like a nice guy, but it was
Yeah.
just kind of like just rubbing.
Well,
like,
I think it's something to be aware of, and there's a lot of interesting things too around that topic of like being careful about putting your kids' names on things out in public. Like I've heard that a lot about, don't put your kid's name on their backpack because some stranger could call their name and be like, oh, hey, John,
your
come
mom.
here. Your mom told me whatever, and then all of a sudden this kid trusts you because you know his name and da-da-da. So there's things like that to be leery of for sure to that regard.
But I don't know, like, again, we've heard all the weird just, twin stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that was the one thing recently, I guess, that kind of just like, I don't know, it just seemed a little off to me that it was just like, oh, Andrew. I'm like,
right.
Who are you?
All right, we got time for one more.
All right, this is a good one. This is from Rick Smith, 1590. First time dad, stay at home with my now 6-month-old most of the week. How old can he be before I am sentenced to watching the kids shows for the rest of my life?
You're the adult, so you
Yes.
never have to watch them. You can just not turn on the TV. Unrealistic answer, but it is an option. We don't watch TV in my house. My kids are 3. We don't watch TV in my house
case
with
by
them.
case.
So I haven't been subjected to it, and my kids are 3 and change. That's a choice by us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I've been watching kids shows, since probably 6 months old, 9 months old, because like we did signing time, so that's the earliest thing I can really recall. And like when we were feeding Cameron or whatever, or doing random things, or even if Brandy was trying to like fold laundry, we would let Cameron would watch signing time. So like kids learning sign language, right? So she would watch that while Brandy was like folding laundry or trying to do something or cook dinner, and which was really cool because she learned sign language and could tell us things. So those are some of the earliest things that I can recall her seeing and me having to watch. But then like.
Like, I don't know. Like I'm
Dora
thinking
the
of God.
Explorer
Yeah, I
or
forgot. I was
whatever.
like Thomas the Train, all that. They're like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
When did you have to?
I don't. Only until recently have I not had to watch that stuff if my kids have gotten older. But it just depends on when you want to let your kids watch stuff. I was 6 months. His kids are 3 and they don't watch anything because
Which I mean, from a parenting standpoint, becomes very challenging. Like on a weekend, like it's very. And I get it. Like we're in a very fortunate, unique position to to not, if I'm playing with the kids and the wife can help do, like cook dinner or vice versa, like, we've had that trade-off when we're able to do that. Obviously, I know that that's just a very unique and fortunate situation, but, putting on the TV can sometimes be that necessary, almost babysitter in a way, just to help you be able to do something. And I find it challenging because, like, my kids, thankfully now we've let them play by themselves, so they know that they don't have to be entertained by me directly or my wife, which has helped. But other times, like, that only goes on so long because their attention span is only so long. So then it's reading a lot of books with them and doing other stuff. But we've been able to do it, and I think what am I trying to say here? We haven't been in so many situations where they've been exposed to so much other television anyways to really start demanding it or asking for it. They get a little bit at daycare and everything else during lunch, but that seems to not carry over into the home. So for me, I haven't had to become subjected to the kids shows yet. I imagine that'll quickly start to happen just by virtue. When it's a rainy
Right.
day, there's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
In the chat, they're talking about, well, how old is the kid before they start like absorbing? You're watching Rambo and they understand what that is. Like that was like the conversation there.
Yeah, I don't know. Like
I was-
I try to, until they can really like, I as they get older, you obviously have to be very, very cautious of that. But I think you could probably get away with watching some of your own stuff if like they're around and not really understanding it until they're probably 2 at the latest, I'd guess. But beyond that, they start picking up on things for sure. And there's times where I have to remind my wife even because she watches like trash TV and I'm like, hey, the kids are home from gymnastics now. We need to turn that off, And she's like, so like, but this is about to happen. And so I'm like, whatever, So, I mean, that's not all the time, but there's times where I'm like, hey, we're home. Turn that off. But,
I was trying to think what my the kid's doctor said about it with like, especially when they're young, it's only just the lights. But a lot of people are like, oh, do you turn on the TV to put on like Spanish? And it's like, I think there's just tons of studies that like kids don't actually really absorb any of that sort of hearing it to be able to use it developmentally.
I don't know. I would argue that because my kids learned sign language at like before they were a year old.
No, but we're talking like the hand motions and what it goes to. But as far as the verbal communication, if you were to put on,
I see what you're saying. I see what you're
be
saying.
able to toggle back and forth. Again, I'm not an expert and/or a doctor, but I don't think they get as much useful information if you think.
Yeah, if they're just watching.
Like Baby
soap
Einstein
opera.
and stuff, they ain't gonna come back doing multiplication because they watched some television show. Like that just ain't going to happen. Hate to break it to you.
Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, we're still trying to figure out the best way for you guys to get the questions to us. But currently, Instagram DM. You can email media@tacticalbabygear.com. You can, what else can I do? Facebook messages. That's probably not the best place, but Instagram DM for sure. And
We'll use the
email.
hashtag.
Oh, and yes, use the hashtag askTBG. You can tweet at us and use the hashtag askTBG there. And we will collect those questions and answer them the best we can here on this show. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.